built-in networking components. The other one we have, and this is more for management, when you want to manage your Azure environment and configure the servers that are in that environment, you can create what is known as a point-to-site VPN. And this allows your actual clients on the networks to actually be able to connect and manage it as if they were road administrators. I mean, think about it. Unless it's a really hot day, how many of you actually go to your data center to maintain and administer those servers? Probably not often. You probably do it remotely off of a Windows desktop and you remote into that server. Well, that's all a point-to-site VPN is, folks. It's our ability to remote in and manage that Azure network and manage all the servers that are on that network. So we have so many capabilities that once we connect to it. Now, one last thing related to how we look at hybrid networking and how we look at this particular scenarios for remote access. When you stand up your virtual machines inside of Azure, that's Hyper-V. Those are Hyper-V images that we have. The best thing about this is if you take a look at the picture here in the CloudNet and the Windows Azure environment, I have some web servers and I have some SharePoint servers. Well, maybe I don't want those SharePoint servers to ever be, I don't want them to be in the cloud right now, or I want to move them out of the environment. You don't even need the IPsec tunnel necessarily to do this, but we don't lock you into our cloud. If you want to move your environment and move them out of the Azure environment on-premise for whatever reason, you can. These are your servers, folks. It's just a matter of you waiting to download those. They're just VHDs. They're just Hyper-V files. And if you have a Hyper-V host on-premise, guess what? You'll be able to bring those servers up online. It's up to you. Remember we talked about, yeah, we think about the cloud first here at Microsoft, but we also think about you first and foremost. Even though our products are designed like this because customers like yourselves are telling us you want to do these things, it's more important that we give you that control and flexibility to solve the problems the way you need to solve those problems. The other scenario I want to take a look at briefly at, because we're going to see this in demo, and it's kind of important you understand some of the legwork that was done behind the scenes, is backup. Backup is actually pretty easy to do up into Windows Azure. You can use this for Windows Server 2012, 2012 R2, or System Center 2012 or System Center 2012 R2, and specifically with System Center, it's DPM is the product that we currently support, or Windows Server 2012 Essentials and the ability to back it up. Those are the only products we currently support. But how do you work with this, folks? It is so super easy. You first sign up on Azure. You get your Azure account, and by the way, there's a free 1-month trial for it's basically $200 of credit up into our Azure portal that allows you to leverage and give this a try. But you basically sign up. You download agents. Hey, does this sound familiar? What do you do when you back up your own environments? You download those agents to actually work with and save those environments. After you download those agents, you'll register your local servers with the cloud and you'll actually register a certificate as well to make sure that we have secure communications, also to make sure that we talk to your location, your specific subscription that's up in the cloud that's there. And that's the big part of the setup. And once we do that, then it's a matter of us just setting a policy. And the policy is just a typical backup policy. I want to back up this folder, this file, this day of the week or the day of the month, this time, and I want to back it up this frequency. That's it. We're basically setting up the backup schedule and what locations and files we're actually going to back up. We then simply back up the data, either via schedule. You can also just do a quick backup and it'll automatically back up the data for us to use and leverage. And then the great thing about this, just like many backup scenarios that are out there in the day, all this is locked away in Azure. So what if I were to lose my server or I need to recover the files? There's a couple choices you have here, my friends. You can actually either recover it to the same server, to the same location, or to the same server in a different location, depending on what you want to do. Or what if that server is not available? Maybe that server did have a fatal crater. Well, what you could do is bring up another server, install the agent on that other physical box, and bring back that recovery down to an alternative server. Now, you might be thinking, well, Matt, you just gave us a lesson inside of backup. In a sense, I did, but where's the location? The big difference here is we're actually going to Windows Azure Backup, specifically locations known as the Backup Vault. Very, very easy. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. And you're thinking, Matt, you're just showing us a backup demo. Remember, don't lose anywhere in this translation where my data is actually being stored, being backed up to, and being recovered from. So let's take a look. And in our demo, we're going to take a look at a couple of concepts. I'm going to show you the basics of just some of the network and the point-to-site VPN and the site-to-site VPN, where those are configured inside the Azure portal. And then I'm going to show you a real live recovery of some documents that are in Azure and show you where that backup portal location is. Well, let's take a look at my demo environment here. And currently I'm logged into my Azure portal, and I'm just on the All Items. So I see everything that's currently inside my portal, from some virtual machines, like I have with Dallas, cloud environments, and notice if I click on Dallas 1, it takes me there. I have my backup vault, which we'll take a look at in just a moment. But one thing that I don't have created yet is a virtual network. Now, just real briefly, a virtual network is something that I can create up inside of Azure. It allows me to control the IP address ranges that are assigned to the virtual machines that I create. So whenever you create a virtual machine inside of Azure, they are DHCP-enabled machines, and they're always going to be that way. But virtual networks allow you to control that address range that's going to be assigned to those virtual machines when they actually come online and for us to work with it. Now, that's at a real high level. Virtual networks are going to be assigned to a certain data center and data region, whatever you create when you set it up. But for our purposes today, when we talk about hybrid networking, virtual networks really is the building block that allows us to connect and create that bridge between our on-premise data centers and our Azure data center. And this is how we create it. So let me just take you through the wizard. I'm just going to step through. I'm not actually going to create a virtual network for this particular demo, but I just want to show you where some of those configuration settings are. So I'm just going to call this Hybrid 1. And I'm going to create a new Infinity group just so you can see what that's like. And an Infinity group essentially is a container where I can put all the different components for whatever that application might be, what servers, network, storage, whatnot. I'm going to choose one of our data centers here, mega data centers in the West. And if you really want to know where that probably is, down in San Antonio, Texas, I'm just going to give it a name. It's called Hybrid 1. And click on Next. Now, how do I start hybrid networking? Well, the first thing I mentioned, whenever we create virtual machines inside of Azure, a default a remote desktop connection is created for you to be able to. But if you have 500 servers up there, you essentially would have 500 RDP connections, which, by the way, you can delete if you don't need them. But if those 500 servers are on a particular virtual network, all I have to do is create one point-to-site VPN network, and this allows my clients to manage that data center as if they would manage an on-premise data center, that it's the same kind of consistent approach, and we essentially are just VPN-ing to this virtual network that we have in Azure that has all of my servers connected to it, and allows me to really configure and maintain that by checking the box and modifying some security settings. We're basically telling what address ranges we're going to give to those clients, so when they come in, they can actually maintain the environment. The other one that's here, and I'm going to clear that box for this one, is what is called the site-to-site VPN. Now, the site-to-site VPN allows you to connect your on-premise network to your Azure network with a IPsec VPN tunnel. Remember, I mentioned earlier in the presentation, you actually have to set this up first, and most modern routers will have this turned on. And what you actually have to do is on your actual on-premise device is simply configure the IPsec tunneling and then know that IP address of that actual router, and then essentially just plug it in here, and it's going to tie into that network for us to work with it. Now, you can only have one site-to-site tunnel per Azure network, but you can have up to 5 networks per Azure subscription. What's interesting about that is that I've only seen one customer use actually just 2 Azure networks. So 5 might seem fairly small, but based on the fact that we support Class A, Class B, and Class C address subnets inside each virtual network, you really have a huge amount of IP address space to leverage and use to create those different types of LANs and VLANs that you want to create inside of our environment. So for our perspective, it's just a matter of once you set up the device, of knowing that device's IP address and give it a name, and that's all you have to do to begin that hybrid networking. And once that connection is established between your on-premise network and your Azure cloud, now it's just a remote data center. It's a remote data center that happens to be a 400,000 square foot facility with a little over 100,000 computers in it for you to leverage. The other demo that I want to show you while you're here is I want to take you through a quick tour of the Windows Azure backup. Now, we saw that I have my backup vault created inside of Azure, and if I look at it, I have my recovery services and have my backup vault, and really all it does is show me what my certificates are, what protected items that I have here, but notice I only see servers that are here. I don't actually see the file folders. Well, how do I access that information? Well, this is where the backup client, the backup and recovery client, comes in. Remember, before we can use this, we have to download and install the agent, and when you do that, you actually get your backup services. So here I am actually in the Windows Server Backup utility, and you notice over here I have local backup, and then I have backup. Now, if you look at backup, it has a cute little cloud icon for us to see and use and leverage. And all that does, it says I'm a Windows Azure Backup, but even notice that when I'm highlighted on top of it, It even says in the title bar that this is Windows Azure Backup. Now, what are some things that I had to do before this? The first thing, and I already mentioned, is I had to actually register the server, which essentially tells me where my certificate is. You have to have an encryption certificate. You can use a self-signed cert if you want to, or you can actually leverage any whatever PKI solution you're using for certificate. And then it's a matter of stepping through and saying, hey, this server knows how to. I've already done that, so I don't need to do that now. I've also set up my backup environment. If I click on Schedule Backup, what it's doing is pulling the policy down from Azure. So the policy is actually stored up there, and it tells me what area I've decided to back up. So I've backed up my eCloud backup directory, and if I show you what that directory looks like here, if I just go to eCloud backup, I just have a couple text files, nothing real major, just some real small files that are up there for us to work with it. And then I can specify the backup time. This will be my reoccurring schedule. My retention time. We actually create snapshots. So we kind of do, in a sense, previous versions up in the cloud. So we can actually have multiple copies up there for us based on what we have set up. Do I have any, I also can set up exclusions if I need to. That was actually back up on here if I want to add dates and times. I can add in different items. I can exclude items. I can really control what I back up. But folks, you're thinking, wait, Matt, this is just like pretty much every backup tool I've used. That's the point. The only difference is, and it's an important difference here, folks, is that I'm actually backing up into the cloud. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this because I've already created my backups. And I can back up now if I want. It'll actually back up the environment. Or I can simply, let's say, recover data. Now, to prove that I'm going to do a live recovery here, let me show you my desktop on my server. Let me just minimize a couple things. So notice I have nothing on my desktop, and I'm going to bring files down from the cloud. Actually, really easy to do here, folks. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Recover Data. It tells me where do I want to recover it, this server or another. I'm going to recover it to this server. It's going to say, how do I want to look for the files? I'm just going to browse for the files because I don't have a lot. You can do some searching there if you do have quite a few files up there to look at or bring down. I'm just going to choose the volume, which is the volume E that I've backed up. It's going to ask which one do you want to bring up. I'm just going to bring the one up from that I scroll down through that list. It takes a second to retrieve the list. We'll bear with it here just a moment. And notice it comes up, tells me my cloud backup directory, and then brings the file. So I'm going to just bring down my actual file, one of my favorite football teams, the Ohio State Buckeyes. For everybody out there, OH. And for you Buckeye fans, you get what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to click on Next. It's going to ask where do I want to put it, original location. I'm going to say another location. I'm just going to browse to my desktop here. Click OK. It's going to tell it where it's going to have. Do I want to create copies, overwrite, depending on where I'm bringing this in? Do I want to bring back ACLs? I can do that. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on Recover. Now, this will take just a minute. It's actually initializing a connection. It's estimating the size of the backup items. I found that sometimes this isn't always the most accurate when it comes up with a size prediction, but it is going to bring back the file. It should take just a second here for this file to come back up. So we're going to let it chug here and hopefully bring back down the file from the cloud. And notice the file came back. 1K was transferred. I'm going to go ahead and click on Close. And just to prove to you that the file is there, let me go ahead and minimize my window down. And there is my E volume. If I open it up, Cloud Backup, and there's my file. Go Buckeyes. Woohoo! And with that, you can see how easy it is to leverage some of those hybrid cloud scenarios. Very, very easy things to do. And if you look to my blog, I actually have some step-by-step guides that I'll create a link here for you that can actually show you how to actually do that online backup for yourself. Thank you for watching this screencast and this presentation on the Microsoft Virtual Academy. Make sure to check out more classes that are out there on the MVA. I know there's several inside the hybrid cloud, so you can check out all those done by some wonderful peers of mine. If you want to try some things yourself, check out the TechNet Virtual Labs. And also, if you want to download some of the products like Windows Server 2012 R2 or System Center 2012 R2, please make sure to visit the TechNet Evaluation Center. Thank you. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.